the 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim, Chet, Chesko.
It's Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA, and the Edge of Philly Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim, Chet, Chesko. And Chet, it's good to have you back from vacation. We zigged, we zagged, we zigged, we zagged, and here we are right at the regular start time at 7 o'clock tonight. So we're going to make the most of it. But I have to tell you, you missed an unbelievable sports week while you were on vacation. The Phillies, they go to St. Louis, take care of their business there, win game one, going to win game two tonight. Hopefully, if not, it'll be tomorrow, but they're going to win that one too. The Eagles, they host the Cowboys Sunday night. They're still undefeated. The Flyer season opens tomorrow night. Penn State is headed to the Big House for a noon kickoff against Michigan. They're going to win that one too. So much to talk about.
Apparently, I should leave the country more often, Bill. All these good things happening. Yeah, the Phillies about to play game two, we think, of the NLDS, if the weather does permit. You mentioned the Eagles. They're off to this great start. The Union also finishing up atop the East in the MLS. Yeah, I just mentioned soccer. How about that? Philadelphia sports fans are in a pretty good mood this week. By the way, what time do the Mets play tonight?
They golfed today. They might have got washed out, but they had a tee time this morning. Keith Hernandez was the first golfer of the day.
Oh, my. Let's get it going, Bill. Come on.
We have two great guests tonight. Chet, Baseball Hall of Fame writer Paul Hagen returns to talk Phillies, and former Flyers defenseman turned author CHRIS THERIEN joins us in the second half.
Yeah, thanks for everybody who's kind of gone with us today with our scheduling adjustment. We were going to go after the afternoon game ended, but they haven't even started that game, so we thought maybe we can move it till much later, but no, that would be too late. Can we move it to 6:30 or so? No, 7 o'clock is our regular time. We're going with it. Hopefully the game will be started at least before 8 o'clock, and then we can all enjoy the game and another Phillies win. Let's get it going, Bill.
Let's do it. Let's welcome Paul Hagen and back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Paul, appreciate your patience with our zigging and zagging, but here we are right on time.
Yeah, well, you can't do anything about the rain. I've sat out a bunch of rain delays in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Hey, Paul, I want to ask you first of all, how much did the Phillies perhaps benefit from dropping to the 6th seed in a matchup with the Cardinals in the wild card round instead of ending as number 5 and having to play those stinking Mets?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you consider not that there's necessarily a carryover from the regular season, but I think the Phillies only won like 4 out of 19 against the Mets or something like that this year. So I think, yes, I think that was very fortunate. And once they clinched, I don't think they had a whole lot of interest in winning either one of those last two games and going past San Diego. I think they're very happy to have it the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, Paul, have you ever seen in all your years of covering baseball a team get to the playoffs that really has no identity in their bullpen? They don't have a setup guy. They don't have a closer. We're not sure. It's all by committee and all by kind of guy by gut feel at this point.
Yeah, closer by committee is shorthand for that you don't have a very good bullpen normally. But the way Jose Alvarez has been pitching, and if Seranthony now Dominguez is back from whatever was ailing him, I think Zach Eflin still has to show that he can close consistently if he's going to be the closer. But they do have a couple guys at least down there now that Rob Thompson seems to have some confidence in, and that's a pretty important thing too. The manager's got to believe in his guys when he sends them out there too.
They don't have David Robertson, but that's a whole nother story. That's an unfortunate injury. Boy, he's had some tough mishaps during his time in Philadelphia. But enough about him. Let's get to the starters. They won with, Ranger Suarez really struggling in game one, the bullpen and kind of bailing him out at times, and, putting 7 runs on the board really helped. And now game two, whether it happens this evening or tomorrow, you got Zach Wheeler followed by Aaron Nola. You got to like the Phillies' chances right here.
Two things have occurred to me, really just in the postseason since Wheeler and Nola has started pitching so well. One is I remember the 2001 Diamondbacks, who had Randy Johnson and Kurt Schilling at the top of their rotation, and 3 other guys named Joe, and took it all the way to a World Series because those 2 guys were so good. Now, I'm not saying Wheeler and Nola are as good as Schilling and Johnson were that year, but they don't have to be that good all year. They just have to be that good for a few more starts. So I think that's the one thing that jumps out at me. The other thing is, it reminds me a little of the 93 Phillies in the sense that we came out of spring training and there was all this talk about, oh, this could be something special. There's a special feeling here. But if you don't win once the season starts, then that can go away pretty quick. So they went to Houston. Houston had loaded up that offseason and swept the Astros on the road. And that just kicked off a streak where they, if you remember, they had the games where all of a sudden Milt Thompson was going over the left field fence to take a grand slam away from Bob Guerin in San Diego. And Mickey Morandini was diving across second base in the 9th inning to keep the Dodgers from winning a game. Tommy Lasorda had already jumped out of the dugout celebrating. And it just one thing sort of fed on the next thing. And, you could make a case that comeback against the Cardinals in game 1 of the wild card series could have that kind of effect. There's a lot of talk going into the postseason. Yeah, we can do this. Yeah, we're good enough. Yeah, we're blah, 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 with all that, but you have to go out and do it. And when you do it and do it in that fashion, sometimes if you believe you're a team of destiny, you become a team of destiny. I still think the Braves are the better team. I still think that the Phillies have to prove they can beat them. But, stranger things have happened in this game.
Yeah, and one thing that, to me, that's put some things into perspective is that Bryce Harper looks like he is quietly heating up. And if there's any one guy that can carry this team, it's Bryce Harper. And, they always say when you're a left-hander and you're hitting that ball the opposite way and hitting it hard, good things are happening, and he's doing it right now.
Yeah, and he's a good player, and he unfortunately had the injury to the thumb that I guess is going to require off-season surgery. But he does look like he might be getting his swing back a little bit. I think he had 1 rehab game, so it's probably not surprising. It would have been a little. I know he's the reigning MVP, but it might have been asking a little much for him to just come back after being off that long and pick up where he left off. So you're right. Maybe he's getting hot at just the right time.
And speaking of getting hot at the right time, how about that Nick Castellanos? I was kind of hard on him all season because I thought he underperformed. They didn't pay him $20 million a year to hit 13 home runs or whatever he had. The batting average was decent, but now all of a sudden he is hitting better. And then he made that great catch, which, was just huge in the 9th inning of game 1. So, boy, if he can get hot right now, and Harper, and maybe even Schwarber too, we got something.
Yeah, I don't think this team has really performed up to its full offensive potential a lot of the year. But as you said, if you get a couple of your big guys hot at the same time, going back to the team of destiny theme, Castellanos defensively was considered a liability going into the season. So to see him make a catch like that, again, it just makes you think, well, maybe good things are starting to happen here. Maybe it's going to be one of those stretches where things just break your way.
And Rob Thompson was asked last night after the game, why did he make the defensive move to take Schwarber out when normally that's a move that takes Castellanos out? Castellanos makes the play. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. You push the right buttons and some good things happen.
Yep, absolutely right.
Hey, Paul, let me ask you, what do you think of the new wild card format? I thought it was a pretty exciting weekend, the new best of 3. Certainly better than a 1-game wild card that they've had, in some recent years. Do you like it?
Well,
I know you're an old traditionalist, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, it is. If the Phillies were to go deep into this postseason, and let's say they go to the World Series or even win the World Series, good for them. But this is the first time in baseball history they would have made the playoffs. They were, based on the regular season, they were the third best team in their division this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if you believe in reseeding more or less for the postseason and, giving everybody a chance, I guess that's fine. It is exciting. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the big advantage that the teams that were seated higher had was they had all 3 games at home. And if I'm not mistaken, 3 of the 4 home teams lost. So I don't know. I guess I think that the more teams you let in the playoffs, the more it lets the owners off the hook for having to try to put the best team possible on the field. 1 wild card doesn't really bother me, and that made a lot of sense, I guess, when you have 3 divisions, because you might have a 103 win team. Like the Giants, I think, won 103 wins a few years ago and didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yeah, okay. But if you can be 2 games under 500 in September and be considered in the chase, I mean, I guess it becomes more exciting once you get there. But I didn't find it all that compelling in September, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Interesting. Well, I think I haven't seen the TV numbers, but I have to think the weekend's numbers had to be really, really good because there was some exciting baseball. No matter who was pitted against who, it was good baseball, and it definitely it was almost like, for me, watching hockey playoffs. It definitely went up a notch.
No doubt about it. And I think to see the Indians win was kind of exciting. I mean, I'm always going to be biased toward a Terry Francona team, but I love the way they play the game. They play it, I think, a little more the old-fashioned way, even though that didn't necessarily show up in their first series when they hit some home runs. But they're put the ball in play, keep the line moving type of team, kind of like the Phillies were in their rally in Game 1 of the wild card, and really were for the most part in their big first few innings yesterday. So I enjoy that kind of baseball, and but you're right, it's every pitch matters, every umpire's call, so it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I think even with Wheeler pitching for the Phillies in Game 2, the Braves are favored. They got a pretty good guy on the mound as well. I think this is setting up really well for them with Wheeler and Nola. As I said earlier, who's going to pitch Game 4 if there is a Game 4? Is that Falter?
I don't know. I'm obviously not there and haven't been talking to people, but that would be my guess. Could be Falter on a short leash, depending on how rested the bullpen is.
Maybe keep Syndergaard.
I think, I was a little surprised not to see Syndergaard earlier yesterday. I would have thought he might have been the logical person to come in after I should say come in earlier for Suarez.
Yeah,
I think letting Suarez go as long as they let him go was risky. I mean, it worked out, but I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have done it that way. But then again, I don't get paid manager money.
I'm excited to see Bailey Falter. I've been on the Bailey Falter train for the last couple of months. He's been good for them down the stretch, and they really needed him. So I am definitely looking forward to that.
Yep.
Paul, what's your gut telling you? Do the Phillies win this series now?
The fact that I hate to use the term stole the first game with Suarez starting, but I guess I would have felt better about it going in if they had Wheeler, Nola from the jump, but they didn't, and they got the win in the Suarez start. Now they got Wheeler and Nola for 2 and 3, and in theory, at least maybe for some relief innings in a Game 5 if needed. So I mean, I think normally you talk about Game 2 being the most important game in a 5-game series. And it still is, but boy, for them to be able to win that first game and now have a fully rested Wheeler and a fully rested Nola up 1-0, I think that sets up pretty nicely for them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Paul, I want to ask you, looking forward into next year, I probably already know what you're going to say about this, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
I know you're going to ask, and I hate it.
Yeah. What do you think about this shift, getting rid of this shift and making guys just be able to get hits instead of learning how to hit? Pete Rose said he'd hit 400 every year if they shifted on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it in the sense that it's going to make the game more like it used to be. But as a matter of principle, if a team wants to put all 7 of their fielders in right field, I think they should be allowed to. And then, how many times have you heard baseball's game of adjustments?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it's up to the hitter to adjust. In basketball, if another team wants to put 4 guys on Joel Embiid and 1 guy on the other 4, they can. It wouldn't be a very good idea, but they can. I just, there's certain things I don't think in sports you legislate. I think teams try to be smarter than the other team. And if you can be smarter and position your guys in a better way than the other team does and know where the ball's going to be hit more often than not, then good for you. Then again, you also have a lot of times we've seen where it only works if the pitcher makes his pitch in a certain spot and he misses and the ball goes somewhere else, or the hitter adjusts. I mean, how many times have we seen the pitcher get mad when a ground ball that would have been an out under normal alignment goes through because there's a big shift out? So I don't have as big a problem with that, especially since, like I say, if you're smarter enough to figure out a way to win, good for you. Go for it.
The other big change will be the pitch clock. Is that going to be, fully regulated? I don't see a lot of pitchers, being able to make that adjustment, the guys who take forever, but they're going to have to, I guess. So are they going to regulate that and, use it like they should? How's it going to work out?
Well, I would tell you, first of all, I went to a game in Reading this year, and they had the pitch clock, obviously, in AA, and it was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was wonderful. The game ended, and it was like 2:20.
Wow.
And they had 2 minutes and 15 seconds between half innings for commercials. So it was similar to a regular season Major League game. I thought it worked great. It seemed pretty seamless. I guess my one concern is I've been doing this long enough to remember when, okay, this year we're going to call the balk. And they did for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then everybody kind of forgot about it. And then they were going to call the high strike. And that didn't really last more than a couple weeks. And then recently, in the last couple of years, the hitter can't step out. The hitter's got to stay in the box. Well, I don't know. I'm sure you guys have noticed. Yep. Hitters are stepping out of the box all the time. So if they follow through and they do it, I think the time allotted is certainly sufficient to get yourself ready. I mean, maybe you're gonna have to get used to it a little bit, but for both the pitcher and the hitter, I think it makes the game better.
I'm a little curious because I don't think I fully understand the other rule change that's coming in place with changing the size of the bases. I'm not sure if that makes it shorter to home from home to first, or if it makes it shorter for the throw from the infield to first. I'm not sure what exactly that's supposed to do. I guess it's supposed to be wrapped around player safety somehow, but who's getting hurt running to first base?
Yeah, I think as nearly as I can gather, the idea is, teams have basically stopped stealing bases because the sabermetric rule of thumb is if you can't make it 80% of the time or 75% of the time, then you don't even run. And so I think they're hoping that it spurs more stolen base attempts. But at the same time, they're talking about a rule where you can only throw over a certain number of times, which kind of seems contradictory to that. And not an extra 2 inches. I mean, I know it's a game of inches, but I don't think that's going to make any manager feel more comfortable about sending a guy than he would otherwise.
Interesting. Right. I'm not sure I get that.
No. Well, look, they're throwing a lot of mud at the wall these days. And I don't have any problem at all. I think it's great that they're experimenting with these different things in the minor leagues. But just because you experimented with it in the minor leagues doesn't mean you have to do it in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one they could have left, down there. The other change that you didn't mention is that next year, every team is going to play every other team in baseball.
Yeah.
Which, as far as I can see, erases the last difference between the American League and the National League.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even sure what the point of having different leagues is at this point.
Yeah. Well, somewhere along the line, aren't they planning on adjusting the playoff format accordingly?
And I think we could see realignment too, conceivably. But I loved it when there was a distinct distinction between the two leagues. I liked that. I liked when if you made it to the World Series, you were not going to have seen that team all year. I thought that made it. Excuse me. I thought that made it more fun. And I also, and this is really the old curmudgeon in me coming out. So let me get this straight. Back when there was only the DH in the American League, the games lasted much longer than the National League games because there was more offense. Now we're doing things to try to speed up the games, but we're still putting the DH in both leagues, which in theory makes the games longer. I don't know. I don't get it.
The thing I'm going to miss with all that, depending on what they do, is I still want to play the stinking Mets. You need to have those rivalries. They're important. Reds, Cardinals, all the different ones, Dodgers, Giants, they're important to the game too. And it's fun to see all the different players throughout the league. But I think you still have to have those rivalries. It's part of the games.
Yeah, I think the Phillies are going to play their division teams 14 times instead of 19 times.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Year. So that's still, a goodly number of times. I just hope they spread it out more than they did this year.
Yeah, we had the Mets.
They were done. They were basically done with the Mets by the end of May, right?
Which was actually a good thing, as it turned out.
Yeah. Well, it ended up playing the Braves a lot in the second half of the year.
Exactly.
They didn't play them much in the first half. It was kind of odd. Well, Paul.
All right, Paul.
We appreciate you coming by as always. Let's do it again. How about we have a little World Series talk?
Absolutely. I'll be here.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. Care. Hey, Chet, if you're spending more time on your couch than you are in your car, it's time for you to start saving with Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance.
Yeah, you know that, Bill. Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance puts you in control. You only pay for the miles you drive. With the same full coverage that a traditional policy offers, pay-per-mile insurance gives customers greater control of their insurance costs. See how much you can save with pay-per-mile car insurance by calling your local agent in Westchester, Pennsylvania. That's Dave Lavoie. Call Dave at 610-430-0700. Again, 610-430-0700, and start to save more now that you are driving less.
Well, hey, Chet, tell us, since it is mid-October already, where's the time going? Tell us what's going on over at the Irish Rover Station House.
Bill, there's always a bunch of cool events and things happening at the Irish Rover, and they got a bunch of things on the schedule right now. In fact, this Thursday evening, I don't know what this is, but it's something called the Very Mega World Championships, and there's some kind of semifinals. It's like a video game competition, and they're having some of the competition right there at the Irish Rover. You have a chance to win beers or a gift card. Beyond that, again, I have no idea what it is, but the Rover does, so check that out. Also, they have live music the next few weeks at the Rover, the next few weekends. They have a Halloween bash also on the 29th. Yeah, the Rover's always fun Halloween bash with a DJ plus prizes for the best costumes and much more. And if you're a beer lover like me, just know that the Irish Rover always has 24 beers on tap, plus dinner specials Thursday through Sunday, and drink specials during all Eagles games. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check the website. It is irishroverstationhouse.com.
Hi, this is Ray Dinger, and it is always fun to talk sports with these two guys, Bill and Chet, on Philly Pressbox Radio.
Hey, Ray Diddy. Good to see you, pal. Hey,
We're going to
Chet.
have to get Ray Diddy back in the show. I see him making, little appearances here and there. He's not totally retired. So,
yeah, how about
we're gonna get him back.
Hey, Chet, Eagles remain the only undefeated team in the NFL at 6-0. And but I'm going to tell you, I was a little underwhelmed with the game in Arizona until it got to crunch time. They hunkered down on the offensive line and took care of their business. And apparently, we never saw it on TV, but apparently made a special teams play that saved that game.
Yeah, the little tip on the field goal. They went up 14-0, and I thought it was going to be a cakewalk at that point, but they never really established the run game until the fourth quarter. There was some poor tackling along the way. They just didn't seem to have the killer instinct. Maybe they were looking ahead to the following week's game, which is this week's game against the Cowboys. I don't know. Maybe they were smelling themselves a little bit. Everybody talking about them being the only undefeated team. I don't know. It was not their best game, certainly, but as you and I and others have said many times, a win is a win is a win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll take it, but we can also dissect it a little bit.
And we always do.
We always do. Because I tell you, some things that were a little troubling to me, especially on the offensive side of the ball, A.J. Brown caught 3 passes probably in the first 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Never saw him again.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I actually was looking on the formation to see if he was even on the field there later in the game, because they were going with a 3 tight end set there in the run situation. But that was one thing that bothered me. The other thing, I thought the play column was a little bit different this week. A lot of screens, a lot of short things. They didn't put Jalen Hurts into very many, I'll call them stressful situations. They kept the game plan very simple. But then again, on the defensive side, they seem to play a bit soft. So I don't know exactly where that comes from, but it just seemed to me it wasn't a near as aggressive game plan on either side of the ball.
Yeah, as you said, a lot of screen passes, and Devontae Smith, is taking a bit of a beating because he's not a big guy, and these short screen passes, he's getting hit quite a bit. We mentioned the running game. I would have liked to have seen them try to get that running game going more. Maybe it was because they had so many injuries on the offensive line. At one point, they had 3 backups out there, no Jordan Mailata the whole game, and Kelsey out for a little bit. So that could have played into it. I don't know. But they got the win, and now they have a huge game against the Cowboys. Sunday Night Football. I can't wait for this one, Bill.
Yeah, I can't either. I like this game a lot. The only thing that excites me more than this Eagles game is that we got a whole pile of Phillies games to get ready for the Eagles game. So it's going to be fun. We're with Joe. He says good teams win their worst games. How true is that? The other thing, too, Miles Sanders just 6 carries in the first half after coming off a 130, 40-yard game the week before. And a lot of Jalen Hurts designed runs, I think you got to limit that just a little bit. He's good. I mean, he's good and he's good at it. But just the more chances you give him to run the ball, the more chances something bad could go wrong.
Yeah, so let's get Miles Sanders involved more early. Let's get A.J. Brown involved more the whole entire game. Great game for Dallas Goedert, though, including that huge 3rd and 11 conversion late in the game. That was big. The Eagles only had 8 offensive possessions, and they scored on 4 of them. So that's actually not bad. 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. So, and Cam Dicker, the kicker, a special teams player of the week, I believe. So
absolutely. Well, so, I wonder what middle school they took him out of, because he looks like he's about 14.
He does. I saw the interviews after the game, and he was like, a teenage kid playing a big high school game. He was pretty excited, happy to be there, and he got the job done. That's the important thing.
Yeah. One final question I want to ask you, and I know you watched this on tape because you were traveling home.
Yeah.
I find it interesting with Jalen Hurts. I'm going to say this, I think, as a negative, but I'm not sure. His level of intensity, it is so almost like he doesn't enjoy being out there. He's, and I don't know if that hurts you. We used to always talk about Randall Cunningham had that look on his face, that stare. Jalen is so intense that you just wonder if, is he really having a fun time out there?
He's getting the job done. That's the important thing. I think he is having fun. And he's just such a likable guy. He seems like a real leader despite being only in his third year. Players seem to love him. So he can do no wrong in my eyes. And by the way, our buddy Paul Domovich put out his latest power rankings. He's got the Eagles up to number 2 right now, behind only Buffalo. And who knows, maybe we'll see those Bills and Eagles in the Super Bowl. That would certainly make Glenn Macnow and Glenn's dad pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to ask Damo next time we have him how these power rankings come about, because I never did understand them. I never did follow them because I didn't get them. But when you have Dallas at 5, and we'll get more to this a little bit later on when we have Boop, I'm sure, but they have no offense. How do you get a power ranking of 5 when you have no offense? But who knows? We'll find out about that.
Yes, we will.
All right. Well, hey, Chet, let's move on. You had a chance to visit with our buddy Bundy, CHRIS THERIEN, earlier today. Good thing, because we were zigging and zagging, trying to figure out what we were going to do. His new life-changing venture, his new book, now out, or will be out in about 2 weeks, I guess, Road to Redemption. Tell us about that. Tell us about your visit with Bundy. Let's talk Flyers.
I got a little problem right here, Bill. I'm having trouble finding the share button for the interview, so that's a potential problem.
Jane just sent a note and said the game just started, so first pitch is in the air.
How about that? Bill, I'm having trouble finding. Oh, no, wait, here we go. If I do the add video clip.
Maybe we need a producer.
I'm telling you.
Okay. You got lost in Italy.
I got it downloaded. There it is. Now, let's see. Hit the share button at the bottom of the page. Do you see a share button at the bottom of the page, Bill?
Oh, come on. No.
I've never had this issue before.
I don't see a share button.
Oh, that's certainly not good.
Well, tell us what he said.
If I can find the share button, how am I going to play the interview? There's usually a share button.
I don't have a share button on my screen.
Oh, my gosh. This is just crazy. Well, we may have to add this later on and play it as a separate. I don't know.
All right.
Anyway, Bundy was great. He's got a new book out. The new book is called Road to Redemption, and it's going to be out on October 25th, I believe. And if I can show you that at least. Always problems, Bill. Always with the problems. So anyway, Bundy's book is called Road to Redemption. It is about not only his hockey career, but about his battle with alcoholism that he, told us about previously at the latter stages of his career, and then the few years after he retired in 2006, even into his broadcast work. So the book's coming out October 25th. He will have some book signings along the way and information about where you can find the book. He's pretty confident it will be pretty much at all the usual spots, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and some local book shares or book stops as well. So looking forward to that. And boy, if I can find this in the next few minutes, I will.
And Wayne Fish, Dr. Wayne Fish, also helped write this book, right? We've had
he did.
Dr. Fish on with us in the past 2 years ago.
Different Fish.
Oh, is it different Fish?
Different Fish. That was Joel.
That was Joel. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I don't know what happened with Bundy, but I will certainly put that out as a separate right after tonight. It's certainly not his fault, but my share button will not show up and allow me to show that interview. So I apologize for that because Bundy talks about the Flyers season, which starts tomorrow evening, home game against the Jersey Devils. And, like most of us, he's not overly optimistic about what we can expect from the Flyers this year. There's just not a whole lot of buzz. They don't have any star players. We wonder where the goals are going to come from. So he said they're probably one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league, unfortunately. So,
well, we're going to find out because, I'm not ready to bury them yet. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say they're a playoff team. But I think what we're going to find, John Tortorella is going to bring a team that's going to come to work every day. And when you come to work every day, you're not going to be here. When you come to work every day, you have a chance of winning some games. And I'm going to hang in there with them and see how this starts out at least. And I know you don't follow hockey till January. They may be dead and buried by then. But I'm going to watch them. Well, depending on if we're playing baseball, I'm going to watch them tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll check them out. I'll give them a shot. I mean, they got Carter Hart. We like Carter Hart. They got some veteran players, Kevin Hayes, Cam Atkinson. Hopefully Joel Farabee will be in the lineup. They said he should be because he's had some injury problems. Unfortunately, no Sean Couturier, no Ryan Ellis. There's going to be a lot of people you're going to say, who's that guy? Because there's a lot of names that haven't been on the roster lately. So it's going to be a learning experience. But, hey, they do have a coach that we all know and I think we'll be entertained by, at the very least, in Tortorella. So It's going to be interesting, Bill.
Hey, I wanted to ask you, since tomorrow night is the opener, it is on some channel that you have to pay per view type thing.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It is, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. Back, because you're old enough to remember, we would never pay to see our teams play. Then Prism came along, and that started it out. I'm going back way, way, way back. And now, we've been through all this. Now everybody has cable, so basically everybody pays. Then they said, well, you'll never pay for the NFL because they're not going to make it. Here we are now. We've got Amazon football on Thursday nights that you got to pay for or have an Amazon account. Now they're shifting Phillies games on Friday nights to pay-per-view type situation. Now the Flyers are coming out opening night. Probably, always an exciting night. Opening night, you got to pay for that one too. What do you think of that, and where do you see it going? I see it only going to get worse pretty soon. You're going to be paying for cable, and you're going to be paying to watch your team.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially people who can't afford to have 5 different streaming services that you may need to watch all the different sports in their entirety. But it is what it is, as they say, Bill. And before we get further along, let me just try this. I think this may work. So if it does, we'll see Bundy right here. Let's find out. You know this guy from his long NHL career, 11 of those seasons with the Flyers, and then his work as a game analyst and studio analyst. He is now an author as well. It's CHRIS THERIEN. Welcome back to Philly Pressbox Radio, Bundy.
Great to be here, Chet. You know what? I don't get on many of these things twice. It's hard to get on some of them once, so I get so many requests, especially last year with Flyers hockey. But you know what? You guys were one of the first ones I had, so you asked me, and certainly happy to come back and join you guys.
Yeah, it's actually your 3rd visit with us, so
really happy. Okay.
Yeah. How about that? First of all, congrats on the new book. There it is, right there, Road to Redemption. I can't wait to see that and read it. We'll talk with you about that in just a few minutes. But first of all, Chris, we're going to speak about the Flyers' upcoming season. We're on the eve of another season, and quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of excitement about it. Now, Chris, you're never one to hold back on giving your opinions on things. What has happened to this great Flyers franchise in recent years?
Well, I think it goes back. I know everybody wants is harder on the new hockey side than they really are on anyone else. But the problem is that we got sold. I think the city got sold a bill of goods, to be honest with you, on the level of the kids that they had brought in here. So, this is going back probably seven years ago, I mean, and you know what, I'm always a believer that if you get a look at a guy for 3 years or 4 years and he's part of your fray or the guys that you want moving forward, you have a real good hard look at those core guys. And then you got to make a decision afterwards, I think, of like 3 or 4 years of whether or not you're going to keep riding it, unless they're complete superstar, at 1 or 2, and they're just mired in the midst of having really poor talent around them. But, I just think there's a lot of things have gone wrong. I don't think development has gone the way that any of these players or the teams expected. They're in cap hell for a long time. That's one of the major problems. I mean, when you look at this team, they're quite obviously on paper, they're a bottom 3 team perhaps, but nobody has salary cap problems like that. I mean, teams that have salary cap problems like that are Tampa Bay Lightning that will just won a couple Stanley Cups and have been amazing for 8 years. So that's the problem with this team. And, the Nolan Patrick pick at second hurt their development, especially that big guy up the middle. Injuries, acquiring guys that were injured that were, taking up a big heap of your salary cap. It's been a mess, Chet. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you anything differently, and I don't think that I'm being unfair in my assessment. Yeah, I worked there for a long time, but I saw the wheels coming off long before my departure of that team, and I think a lot of it for me, and I don't like to kind of to dig up a grave or anything, but I think when you look back at even like a guy like Claude Giroux here, he was here a long, long time, and he was the leader of this team, and there's nobody that was ever better than him really in that span, but to me, he needed to get traded in like 2015 or 16. You needed to take what you had a good glimpse of him as your captain, as your team. It was good some years, and other years they didn't even make the playoffs. They were out of it. So, that was a roller coaster that went up and down for this franchise for a decade. And I really think that they missed the ball reacquiring younger, better pieces for a guy that I think that, for me, I had a pretty good feeling what the future was going to be. With G as the captain. I'd already had a glimpse of it for 7 or 8 years. I didn't need to see anything more of it. And I think a lot of people, GMs and stuff, keep players' individual talent around for their points because sometimes it'll just get you in the playoffs. And to be honest with you, that keeps your job. You'll keep your job if you make the playoffs. So I don't know, man. It's been a rough few years here, Chet. And I can't really say that I'd like to say. I mean, that's the one thing. I want this team to do well. I saw how much Ed Snyder cared about the fans and the players I played with and the things that we learned being, Philadelphians and learning from what that crest stood for. But there's a lot of things that have to change, and they have to change quick. And it's a lot of damage and destruction has been done in the last 3 years. That's going to take a long, long time to get back.
And you mentioned injuries. Ryan Ellis probably not going to play at all this season. Sean Couturier is hurt. There's no guarantee we'll see him right away. Now, as far as scoring, among the veterans in terms of forwards, we got Kevin Hayes, Scott Lawton, and Travis Konecny. Joel Farabee apparently is healthy and ready to go. James Van Riemsdyk still around, which is a surprise to a lot of people. A lot of people thought he would be gone, probably should have. Beyond that, though, the casual fans are going to say, who are these guys? So let me ask you, where are the goals going to come from this year?
Well, that's the problem, right? Like you mentioned, some guys there can score, like, Atkins is another guy. Kevin Hayes put up 25 goals one time, maybe, or something a couple times. But here's the problem. You don't really have a number one line where everything falls in order. You've got guys playing third line guys that are playing first line minutes. And trust me, if that's what you have to defend every night, there's a difference between a top end first line guy and, a good third line player. I mean, those goals are not the same. And so if you're another top pair defenseman and you're rolling against Philadelphia, I mean, it's a lot different having to check Kevin Hayes than it is having to watch out for Ovechkin or Nikita Kucherov. Trust me about that one. Nothing against Kevin Hayes. That's just the way it is. He's not going to score goals like those guys are or put up points. So, but when you're thrust in the roles that you're not used to playing, your team is going to end up hurting for that at the end of the day. Nothing against Kevin Hayes. It's just a matter of him elevating in a lineup that he shouldn't be elevated. He's not a top line guy.
I hear you. We need to mention the new head coach, a no-nonsense guy who's teaching discipline and hard work. He's John Tortorella. Is he going to work in Philly, do you think?
I don't know. Look at that picture. I guess if he smiles like that every single night and looks at a ref, I guess it'll sell for a while. But I mean, I don't know. He's a character. I mean, I've had just brief run-ins with him over, nothing negative, just like hello. And when I used to broadcast games, and he's very good to like former players and players that broadcast. But I think he's going to grow very frustrated here, Chet. I said this summer on our own podcast, Know the Goalie, I said, I don't really think he knows what he has here. And I don't think he had a clue what he had here until he saw it in preseason. And I mean, he even went so far as saying, like, we might have 11 guys that can play in the NHL. He said that, and he says, and the rest of them is probably going to be like a Greyhound bus ticket back and forth to Allentown. He didn't say that, I did, but basically, yeah, there's going to be a lot of turnover up and down between the two teams.
All right, last thing before we get to the book, the goalie, Carter Hart. He's still just 24. We know he's got a lot of talent, but there are questions about the defense in front of him. How do you think Hart and the D will perform this year?
Well, again, Carter Hart is a good goalie, and this is not a, who knows? Chet, there's goalies sometimes that used to say Marty Brodeur was a great goalie because he was only used to getting, 20 shots a game. And, it's hard to stay focused when you're not getting a lot. This kid here might see 50 shots several nights this year, and that may actually help him. That being said, though, it's not conducive, I don't think, to have a kid that is going to be shell-shocked. He is 24. It's part of the development. He's not 21 anymore. So, listen, it's all fair game for the Flyers this year. It's not the players' fault that they're in the situation they're in. It's a collective, acquisitions by the general manager and him putting the pieces together over the years. But certainly, there's a lot of things that are not lining up. I hope they have success this year, Chet. But I'm not sure that I just don't think they have the horses.
Yeah, well, low expectations. So, anything above that, we'll be pleasantly surprised. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to the book. It is called Road to Redemption. And there it is there. And you can hold up your copy, too, when we get you on. For people who, don't know about your off-ice struggles late in your career in the following few years, give them the scoop about, what happened and what they're going to learn from reading this book.
Well, I think, when I started writing, and here it is here, I had got my 20 copies, so I got to get a few out to some media members. But what was great with it, really, Chet, is, when Triumph Books, I guess, had gone around, and they like asking people that have been in certain areas for quite a while that have had experiences to share with people in those areas, like your experience as a longtime former pro player with the Flyers or the Eagles or whoever it might be. So as I started out as a hockey book, I shared my story about recovery and, my alcohol use disorder. It really did come out at the end of my career and afterwards. But the book itself has some amazing hockey stories in it. Obviously when you play as long as I did in Philadelphia, you get the Philadelphia flair in very much part of, as I say, it's a Philadelphia story in a lot of ways. And I consider myself in many ways to be like the Philadelphia everyman. I came out of Ottawa. I've been here for so long. I married somebody from South Jersey. My kids are all born here. And, I'm an Eagles season ticket holder and I roll with the fans. I go to tailgates. I just love being part of the Philadelphia community. And I think that's what's endeared me to the people here. But as the book itself, my last year in hockey, I shouldn't have been playing. It was 05, 06. I had really, really, really bad problems with alcohol stemming really from the lockout the year before. I just had too much time on my hands and we lost it. And then, 2 years I'd gotten clean. I went to Caron Recovery Center, which is to me the best recovery center in the world. They're in Wernersville, Pennsylvania, a place that's only an hour and 15 minutes from Philadelphia. So all the things that went around about it, and then aftercare, why did I feel aftercare was so important, which is a lot of the things that I help with now. So, I've been blessed really, as much as things I didn't like the way things ended the last couple of years or how they ended with the Flyers. I was blessed to have been a broadcaster there. It kept me on the straight and narrow. I was able to work on my recovery and show people the real version of myself, which is what I hope this book does. I think the one thing, Chet, is, I was a partier when I played and, I adopted very much the culture of hockey. And I think that's what it is. So the book in and of itself started off telling stories about the culture of the sport, the Philadelphia Flyers, me in many ways being humbled into the world of hockey, seeing guys like Bob Clark and all these other amazing people when I came to Philadelphia, having a chance to play with Lindros and start my career. And just really how those things came to light, but also how my recovery journey became the preeminent, I think, part of the book towards the end, where I really delve into who I was, what it was, and what I do now in the recovery community to help people every single day with the same struggles I had. So, I'm 11 and a half years, actually more than 11 and a half years sober now. I'm working on 12. I work at Caron Recovery Center now. I help a lot of aftercare facilities and also people afterwards, getting back on the street, learning to live again. You're going to have to drive by your favorite liquor store or your drug dealer that was there before. You have to avoid those kind of things. And that's what I do now. I still love talking hockey. I still love coming on podcasts. But you know what? I was good at drinking. I was good at partying. I'm also very good at recovery. And that's, I think, what this book is. It's got some great, great, great hockey stories. It delves a lot into those 90s teams, a lot of some unanswered questions. Some people I get people going, hey, are we going to find out what happened with Lindros and Brind'Amour? I'm like, I don't know what happened with Lindros and Brind'Amour. So people I don't know where they manufacture this shit sometimes, Chet, but but it's not a book about that. Yes, there's stories, inside stories, but it's not a book that goes into like ticky-tack stuff or a tell-all of trying to sell someone else out. That's not what the book is about. It's a book that ended up being, as I said, a Philadelphia story, a recovery story, and a story about a guy who played in Philadelphia a long time that people saw from the age of 21. I'm now 50. And I think that there should be more books about this because people like me grew up in your households every single night. And not a lot of people know a lot about them.
We should mention that your former teammate turned coach Craig Berube wrote the foreword for the book.
Yeah.
And you co-authored it with sports writer Wayne Fish. It'll be available October 25th. And how can people get a hold of it, Chris?
Yeah, so you know what, Chet? Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna actually have a page set up on Facebook. So proceeds I'm gonna take, we're gonna donate some money to Sober Living out of the book proceeds. We want to help people that are still struggling on the streets. I will have a page set up on Facebook. You'll be able to either use, the regular pay sites, Venmo, Zelle, and we'll also, I believe, have a credit card processing set up as well. Those are just my books that I'm trying to get rid of, so I'm only going to push mine for now. But you can get them anywhere, Chet, at Amazon.com. I think on one of my social medias I posted them before. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the bookstores. And like I said, October 25th. And I will have a book tour as well. I think we have about 6 or 8 dates laid out. And I'm probably still going to add 3 or 4 more over that time. So I really want to get out in the Philadelphia community, talk to people, and just keep doing what I'm doing. That's what I've done. That's what I did all the years for the Flyers. I love being around people, and I still very much do in this capacity. So if I'm out there and you hear about a book signing, come on out and say hello. I'd love to see you.
Absolutely. That was great. Former Flyer CHRIS THERIEN, great seeing you, Bundy. All the best to you.
Thank you, Chet. Same to you, my friend.
Man, Chet, I tell you what, that's good stuff. And, honest talking about the Flyers and first off, and honest talking about life. And you saw a couple of comments I just put up there on the screen about people wanting to see that book. I want to see it too.
Hockey players are just the greatest. They're always, so nice, so friendly, so personable.
They are. And let's watch the Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chet, let's give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge of Philly Sports Network this week. Wall-to-wall coverage as usual. Network continuing to grow as usual. You can catch all the action at www.eopsports.com as well as Edge of Philly Sports on YouTube. You can also find our show on YouTube at Philly Pressbox Radio, our YouTube channel. Please help us out by hitting those subscribe, follow, like buttons, and share with your family and friends. As you can see, we're loaded up. And on that Cowboys game, check out a halftime show as well as a post-game, pre-game, the whole thing, everything on Sunday.
You know it.
All right. All right. Well, Chet, let's welcome our man from Bettor's Insiders, Boop Stats, Bob Vetrone Jr., live from Splits Bar and Grill to make this week's picks, provide us some Week 6 tidbits. Boop, you grew a beard in a week.
It was going. The Phillies started winning. The Eagles won. The Chiefs won. I'm not getting anywhere near a razor.
Playoff beard. I love it.
Oh, well, hey, Boop, we're going to get to some tidbits, but let's get to some picks. We got to find out from Chet, first of all, how things went last week. We all thought this was an easy week of picks. It didn't turn out so well.
Everybody had the same picks last week, even me when I was in Europe. We all went 2-2, so no change in the standings. I'm still in first, 13-7. Yeah, I'm the defending champ. I had to say it. You know that. Bill, you're 12-8. Boop, you're still at 500, 10-10. But better days are ahead. I know it.
All right. Well, let's get it rolling. We are adding game this week. Boop, it always ends up being the Chiefs. It's Bills at the Chiefs. Bills -2.5 on the road.
It is the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career he's been an underdog at home. If I'm Andy Reid, I walk into that locker room Monday morning and I write a gigantic 2.5 on the chalkboard and don't ever take it down. There's no way in the world they shouldn't be favored in this game, and they're going to prove it. They're going to be ahead by so far in the first quarter. Buffalo's going to want to go home then.
I'm going to take those Buffalo Bills. I think that they are going to the Super Bowl this year. Bills to beat the Chiefs.
Well, I'm going Chiefs at home too. I'm rolling with Andy Reid. I went against him one time in Tampa. I'm not doing that again. Andy and Patrick Mahomes. I'm going all in.
Good boy.
All right, the Thursday night clunker.
Oh.
The Washington Commies against the Bears. Bears -1. Bad football game.
Yeah, the Bears are 2-0 at home, 0-3 on the road. Even Bill can do that math. The Commanders are going to march out of Soldier Field with another loss.
Well, I wish I would have known that before I wrote down my pick, and I'm not going to change it. I'm picking Carson Wentz and those Washington Commanders. Wentz's job is in jeopardy. He needs to save it with a win Thursday night in this awful game.
Wentz is 6-0 on Thursdays in his career.
There you go. Thank you.
There you go. There you go. And you know what? I actually watched some of that Commanders game last week. Wentz didn't play bad. He made the mistake at the end of the game. He actually played pretty well, drove him up and down the field. That game wasn't on him until he made the bad mistake at the end. I'm going Washington.
Ooh, all right.
All right. Ravens at the Giants. Ravens -5.5. Somehow the Giants have just one loss.
Yeah, I don't know how they got to 4-1. The Ravens didn't play at MetLife Stadium for 6 years. Now they're playing there twice in 6 weeks. They're going to do the same thing to the Giants they did to the Jets in week 1, double-digit victory.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how the Giants are 4-1 either. They are certainly playing better than anybody expected. They do have what seems to be a legitimate coach now, but it's going to stop this week. I'm also taking the Ravens by at least 5.5, so I think they'll win and cover.
Yeah, I'm taking the Ravens too, but I'm shaking my head at the Giants. I hope there's not more to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, that gets us to Sunday Night Football. The Cowboys visit the Linc, face the Eagles. The Eagles are -5. How you like it, Boop?
Well, they're wearing all black, which they did twice last year, and they went 2-0. I'm going to chalk last week's little hiccup up to it being a long trip and maybe looking a little bit ahead to the Cowboys. We saw the Chiefs that last against the Colts, and also probably a little bit this week with the Raiders and looking ahead to the Bills. I think that might have been the Eagles looking a little bit ahead to Dallas. They come out a little bit better on a Sunday night. I'm pretty sure the place will be loud. Eagles, I don't want to say easily, but let's say 28-21.
Interesting. Cowboys haven't given up more than 19 points in a game this season. I think the Eagles will do a little better, but it's going to be tight. Cowboys have a great defense. They got a couple of good running backs offensively. I'm going to take the Eagles 20-17. They win, but don't cover.
Okay. I got one quick. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm going Eagles too, and I'm going to go for 2 reasons. One is the Dallas offense stinks. They're winning on defense. Michael Parsons is banged up. I think he's going to go, but he's banged up. I think the Eagles' offense is still unstoppable. I'm going Eagles, and I'm going to go by 10 points.
Ooh. One quick betting thing I got for you guys. A lot of people like to do the parlays with the team that covers and the over-under. We looked at Eagles-Cowboys back to everywhere. The last 13 Eagles-Cowboys games at the Linc, there's not been one game in which the Eagles cover, and it's been an over. So if you were thinking of an Eagles cover and betting over, I'd shy away from it. That's 13 straight years with that not happening. So, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
That's more than a data point, isn't it? That's a trend.
Yeah, exactly.
Good stuff.
All right. Hey, Boop, before we let you go, let everybody know where they can follow you and all your platforms, everything you got going on.
You can find me at Twitter on at BoopStats. You can find me on my website at boopstats.com or this segment, which is sponsored by Split Spark Grill, which is where I am right now in the patio outside, which is a beautiful place to watch a game. Phillies is up over there. This patio will be open again for another month or so as long as the weather's cooperating. And if not, come inside and see me. So, Twitter, website, and Splits. Those are 3 places I hang out.
Yeah, pretty much 6 days a week you'll find Boop at Splits. He takes a day off every once in a while.
Despite my wife's request for me not to.
Well, Boop, we appreciate it. Hey, one quick one. Phillies, how many games till they win this thing?
I always, it's hard to pick sweeps in these things, especially with a 21-5 guy going tonight. So let's say in 4. Let's give the home team the Phils 2 home games. I know a lot of people with tickets for Saturday that want to get there. So let's make it Phillies in 4, and then LCS, baby, here we come.
All right, get out of here, Boop. Go back.
Enjoy
to your
yourself, my friend. We'll see you next week. All right, Chet. Great guest tonight at Paul Hagen, Chris Therien. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday?
Well, Bill, I'm not entirely sure about the entire show next week, except for the fact that the Sixers will have opened their season Tuesday night. And so we have to have Dee Lynam back with us. Dee Lynam, I think her 20th appearance. She's right up there with the Ray Didingers and Brandon Lee Goutons. Dee Lynam to help us preview the Sixers 22-23 season. We will also likely have a second guest talking baseball. It could be that James Seltzer and Jack Fritz, who were supposed to be on this week, but we had to switch things around because of the Phillies. It may not be. I don't know, but Dee Lynam will be here for sure live on our show.
All right, sounds good. Hey, Chet, we're running out of time to talk Penn State, Michigan, so I'll just ask you a quick question. Who do you like Saturday at noon in the Big House? Number 4, Michigan. Number 10, Penn State.
Hoping I'm wrong, but Penn State has lost 9 straight to top 10 teams since 2016. That ain't going to change this year. I'm taking the home team. Again, hope I'm wrong, but I think Michigan wins.
You are wrong because Penn State's better than Michigan, so
okay.
You heard it here first if you hadn't heard it before.
Hey, one quick thing, Philly sports trips. They got a big trip next weekend to Music City, Nashville. You can go to the Flyers game down there, and they have other things on the weekend schedule as well. That'll be fun. And you can also book for next year's Phillies spring training down in Clearwater, which will include a meet and greet with former Phil skipper Charlie Manuel. Get all the info from Vince and Company at phillysportstrips.com. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah, and they made a heck of a showing in Arizona, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yes,
as did a lot of other Philly people, too. Good stuff.
Yep.
All right, Chet, let's wrap this thing up. You ready?
Wrap it up. Let's go watch some baseball.
Right. Let's thank tonight's special guests, Paul Hagen, Chris Therrian, Bob Vetrone Jr., our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Bob Sullivan's LakeYourAge.com, PPCC 118 Raz Room, and Dave Lavoy of Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA. For Jim, Chet, Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll join Philly Pressbox Radio next Wednesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. See us live on Facebook. Listen to our website, phillypressboxradio.com, on blogtalkradio.com/phillypressboxradio, on Google Podcasts, as well as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. Go Phillies. Go Birds.